I've told this story many, many times all over the world, and I never again met the guy who it happened to. There was one night in Crown Heights, probably 20 years ago. I met a guy in a sukkah, and he told a story about how he ended up in yeshiva. He graduated college, pre-law, and he had a summer between college and law school. And he went to yeshiva in Israel, in Jerusalem, because he figured that before he studies American law, he's going to study Jewish law. And he went there with the idea that he's going to study all of Jewish law in a summer. Well, he said that pretty quickly he realized that's not possible. But he did develop a passion for studying Jewish law, studying Talmud. And he was a very bright guy, so he was doing well academically. But here's the thing, and this might surprise you. Being that he came from a secular background, and this was his first yeshiva experience, he wasn't yet Torah observant. So the entire summer, he had not yet put on tefillin. He was a bright guy, he was sitting in yeshiva, he was studying Talmud with commentaries, and he had not put on tefillin. Okay. Toward the end of the summer, he realized that there's a lot more to yeshiva than he had thought, and that maybe he needs to come back to yeshiva. So he decided like this. I'm going to go back to school, at least for a year, law school, but I have to make a decision now. Am I going to go back to law school and then come back to yeshiva, or am I going to graduate from yeshiva? Am I done with this? So he decided like this. He said, look, studying Torah is supposed to be holy. That's what makes it different than studying American law. So if I have a spiritual experience, then I'll know that this is different and that this is the real thing. So for his remaining time in yeshiva, he studied and studied and studied, and he really tried to have that spiritual experience through the insights in his studies. And he thought maybe an inspiration, an epiphany would come, but nothing. He just felt normal. He had a respect for Torah, but he didn't have that spiritual experience. He didn't feel that power greater than himself moving through him. And he came to the last day of yeshiva, and he said goodbye, and he packed up his stuff, and he went down to the central bus station to go to the airport. And you know how, first of all, if you have a Jewish mother, you know how she makes you pack when you go to yeshiva. So he had his windbreaker and his sweater, and he had his duffel bag, and he had his backpack, and he had his camera, and he had all of this on him in late August in Jerusalem when it's very hot out. And he's walking, remember the Michelin man, the tire man? He's walking like this, sort of waddling to the bus station with all this stuff, these layers and all this stuff hanging from him. And all of a sudden, some kid, some teenager, some Lubavitcher Bacher goes over to him and says, excuse me, would you like to put on tefillin? Now, he hadn't put on tefillin all summer. I don't think he'd ever put on tefillin. And you know how it goes. Before he could even really answer, it was already happening. But here was the thing. He had on all of his layers. So at first he tried to roll up his sleeve, but then he couldn't really get it. So he tried to take off his jacket, but he had the strap from the backpack. So he moved that, but there was the strap from the camera. So he was trying to move that, but then it got tangled up with the strap from the duffel bag. And he is moving around, and he's trying to get his arm out of his sleeve, and it's hot, and he's covered in layers, and he's carrying all this extra weight, and he's moving around, he's maneuvering, and he says, by the time this guy has me wrapped up, I'm gushing buckets of sweat. And he says, I say Shema, The tefillin is being unraveled from my arm. It's over. I'm standing there sweating, flushed face, and I realize I just had my spiritual experience. What is the spiritual experience? The true spiritual experience is that transformation of matter into energy, of body into godly light, that occurs when we literally burn calories for God through the performance of a physical mitzvah.